I'm also co-chair of the Government Relations Committee with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm the chairman of the Legislative Committee with the City of Raytown. I will introduce some of our people that came today to speak to us with legislative updates. We've got Matt Hayes. He's a representative from U.S. Senator Blunt's office. Thank you. We've got County Legislator Bob Spence. He's with us front and center today. He'll give us some legislative updates from the county. We also have, and excuse me if I start mispronouncing names here, but we also have Jaime Gehan, and he's a representative from Jackson County Legislator Teresa Gareza Ruiz's office. I killed it, but that's it. And then we also have Wynn Jameson, who is a representative from County Legislator from the 2nd District at Large, Crystal Williams' office. Okay. I'd like to recognize a couple other elected officials in the room. We've got Alderman Charlotte Melson, back row there, City of Raytown. And we also have Alderman Pat Ertz, who is very involved in the chamber. Everybody knows him there. So we've got some new members in the chamber here today that will also have a chance to speak on their business and give us a briefing of what they do. And we may have more people trickle in as this goes on. People are running late. We're expecting a couple other legislators. And this is an informal meeting, so we can all ask questions, participate as freely and openly as we want. So with that, I will probably hand this off to Bob Spence. If you'd like to come on up and... Since you're actually here representing your office yourself, I want to give you the first opportunity.
I got to say your part of it.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Well, I left my 10,000 word speech at home because I thought this was going to be a report from the state guys. But I'm here so you can take all the shots you want. I'm sure I can handle them. If I can't, I'll just duck and run. Things at the county are pretty much down to a steady roar, except, of course, for reassessment. That's the big news right now. I've got to tell you, we've got to take the responsibility for it. There's no doubt about it. There is no excuse in the world for reassessments resulting in 18,000 double-digit 10 to 40% increase. There's no excuse in the world for that. We should have procedures in place to prevent that, or at least make sure that the reassessments were correct. But unfortunately, we didn't, so it happened. Now, I lay off some of the blame on the state because they are constantly giving county and other local governments unfunded mandates. You know, we are obligated to reassess, but yet every year for the last 5 years, the state during their budget considerations has lowered what they have given local governments or counties to do that reassessment, resulting in, of course, fewer people on board at the county to do the job properly, resulting in these kinds of errors. But with proper safeguards, we should have been able to catch these errors anyway. Anyway, we learned yesterday that they've enlarged their investigation from the original 18,000 that they were going to look at that were 20, 30, 40% increases in assessed values. And now they are talking about doubling that number because they're going to take a look at everything that was over 10%. Also, condominiums seem to be a special problem, and we've never got a handle on how they should be assessed. So they just rolled every condominium in the county back to 2012 levels. I'm going to take a look at those, that particular problem later. I was on the council back in the 70s in Raytown. I was telling a couple of guys a little earlier today that during one of those meetings, I learned a real trick that the politicians have. We were debating something, and Willard Ross was mayor at the time, and he said, "Oh, I've gotten a bunch of phone calls and letters on this subject, and this is what we ought to do, blah, 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 blah." Now, I was an alderman, and after the meeting, I went up to him and I said, "Willard, I haven't got one call, not one letter, nothing on this subject. Who's been calling and writing?" He just started laughing. He said, "I got one phone call." I learned that trick, and now ever since I've been in politics, people do that all the time. All the time. At the county level too. I said, "I got dozens of calls on this." And I'm sitting there smiling at myself and saying, maybe you got one. Now, I have not received a call or a letter or a note or anything about the reassessment file. So apparently it didn't affect my district too much, which is, of course, all of Lee Summit, about half of Raytown, I guess. And not one person's called or write to me about the assessment. Although at the Rotary Club meeting 2 weeks ago, I got ribbed about it a couple of times. They weren't really griping, they were just teasing me. So, at the same time, I know that some people obviously must have gotten calls because some of the reassessments were just atrocious. You know, you raise somebody's property value by 30 or 40%, that's meaningful. And they got to be griping to somebody. I truly believe that. But I don't think they've gotten hundreds of communications from the constituents. But anyway, other than reassessment, if any of you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer. Things, like I said, are pretty much down to a steady roar. Things are moving along in the county, and without much controversy, we're still taking care of the rural roads and catching the bad guys and putting them in jail and taking care of our parks. Other than reassessment, I have to say things are pretty steady in the county right now. Any questions at all from any of you? Yes, sir.
Is this going to be taken care of automatically, or do we have to file protests?
Oh, okay. An awful lot of it's going to be taken care of automatically because I think next week they expect a lot of reassessment letters to go out to folks. But anybody that's got a problem ought to not be docile about it. They should be proactive. Starting Monday, the reassessment office is going to be open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock p.m. for people to call in for an informal appeal. That'll happen until the 22nd. Extensions by the Board of Equalization their days are extended to September 29th. If you're not satisfied with what you get with the informal appeal, you can still go to the Board of Equalization. So, yes, I think people ought to be proactive, but an awful lot of it's going to happen automatically. Yeah.
I have a basic question. When does your board meet?
Beg pardon?
When does your board meet?
Normally every Monday. Monday afternoons. Usually the meetings start at 2:30, but committee meetings are held before that, and that's where the real action happens. So, by the time it gets to the regular meeting, everything's cut and dried. There's very little debate, and we meet downtown Kansas City in the courthouse and Independence in the courthouse annex. So you've got to get online to jacksoncounty.org and find out where we are that particular Monday and what time the committee meetings start. Yes, sir.
I know it's a lot to expect, but do you know the phone number to call for the informal protest?
I sure don't off the top of my head, but it's in the paper this morning. Anything else? I gotta say, you're an easy crowd. You must be feeling good today. I was saying earlier, where is everybody? They must not be mad at the state, because when they're mad, you know, they really show up in droves. They must be pretty well satisfied right now. Anything else? Well, thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
Well, Mr. Spence asked where everybody was. I think they're held up for the Alderman meeting tonight. That's probably who they're mad at this time. Just kidding. I'd also like to offer any information from any of the staffers. You don't have to come to the podium, but if people may have questions for you all, would you be available to answer, including Matt from Senator Blunt's office? Oh, sorry.
I have that number for the informal appeals as well as the Board of Equalization. The informal appeal number is 881-4601. And basically when you call in, they're going to ask you information about your house, interior. Usually when the assessors go out, they look at the outside, so any interior improvements will help when you do that process. The number for the formal appeal, which is the BOE, the Board of Equalization, is 881-3309. So you can call in. And like Legislator Spence said, the deadlines have been extended about a month on each one of those. So you have plenty of time right now to get that done. And the notices will start to come out, I believe, next week.
The appeals can also be done online, and it's actually a very
Right.
simple process. I helped a constituent go through it personally online, and all you need is your assessment. You need your assessment notice, and you're gonna have a PIN number, and you're gonna need that to access your account online. But after you do that, it takes maybe 5 minutes or so.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
For anybody from the county, as an alderman for the city, do you feel that we're using county services to their full extent, or is there any special area or programs that you're offering that maybe the city of Raytown is overlooking and not utilizing? I don't know. I know we pay taxes to the county. Those tax dollars come back to us. How?
Sheriff's Department by law, and to support mostly rural roads, but we do on many occasions help cities with major arteries that they're having trouble funding. For instance, right now we're working with Kansas City and Lee Summit on Lee Summit Road, kind of a death trap road, and after many years of trying to get something done, they have a memorandum of understanding between the three entities, us, Kansas City, Lee Summit, and we're doing something about straightening out Lee Summit Road. Several years ago, I can't remember how long ago, over 10 years ago, we gave Raytown $50,000 to help with their bridge. So you might always be thinking about that concerning major road problems and no source to fund them, because I'm not saying we'll take them over, but we might very well help out.
Very good.
So that's something you always need to talk or think about. But other than that, I can't think of it. You don't want to at least yourself, use our jails.
But they're there if we need them, right?
We have probably one of the best park systems in the United States.
Sure.
I always urge people to take advantage of our parks and all the activities that they offer.
One thing that I know the county at least pays for the unincorporated areas is the hazardous waste take-back program. And it's very expensive for cities to be involved with that. And I didn't know if there was any interest or if the county would help fund or help cities fund those programs, or allow citizens of Raytown to use their take-back events for hazardous waste paints and freezes.
That's always a possibility. We team with Mark to do that. You might touch base with Mark. See if you can get help there or get into a consortium.
Do we have any other questions for the county?
Yeah, what do you think is going to be the number one issue, or what is the number one issue that you're all working on? Is the top of the mind besides the reassessment?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What's the number one issue that you're working on besides the reassessment that's going to move the county forward?
Well, I've got two major projects on my plate right now, one being Raytown Road. I've been working on that for 6 years probably, and we finally got something going. The other thing is related to reassessment. I think that I have an agreement with the county executive that later this summer and well before the state legislature goes back into session, that we will have a program set up to ask the state legislature to, if you're going to give us unfunded mandates, give us the power to do it. And he agrees with me that that's a good idea. It's going to be a very complicated thing because when this reassessment thing first came up and I found out about the atrocious percentage increases, I called our county councilor and I said, I want you to draft an ordinance for discussion by the legislature that we will not allow reassessments more than some percent, let's just say 10%. That it just won't happen, even if it's the right thing. We'll make those increases over a period of years. And anything else you can think of that will help us in this regard. And his answer was, we can't do that. State law won't let us do that. I got the same answer in 2008 when property values started crashing and developers were really hurting. You know, the value of their properties went way down. In the past, they could always go to the bank and borrow money to pay their taxes. Banks cut the money off. An awful lot of small developers went out of business. And I called the county councilor's office during that period of time and I said, we have to do something about penalties and interest, which are atrocious if you don't pay your taxes on time. They are atrocious. They're killers. And he said, we can't. State law prohibits it. So this is where I came up with the idea that now, you know, let's put some kind of a program together and then attack our state legislatures to get this thing through the state legislature so that we, if you're going to give us the unfunded mandates, give us the power to control the purse strings and the payment dates. He agreed. We'll see if it happens.
I do have a question relating to that. Now you could, I mean, if you can't control the amount the properties assessed at, you could lower the individual tax rates not to achieve the same result.
Reduce our property tax rate?
Right.
Well, that's really difficult to do because the other entities, most particularly school districts, are not in favor of that.
Well,
But
but
the county's portion of those taxes are very minimal. Look at your tax bill next time. County is very little of property.
But if the value of the property is going up, if you lower the rate at which it's being taxed, I mean, that would get somebody to the same tax bill and the entities would receive the same amount, would they not?
Yeah, but they want more. You understand the greed of the politician? He always wants more, not less. School districts would not go along with a plan like that. And like I said, we can lower the county property tax rate. That's minuscule.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Legislator Spence said, I believe the biggest portion of your tax bill per dollar is a school district, which is maybe 55 to 60 cents on the dollar. The county's portion is somewhere around 2 or 3 cents on the dollar. So it's school districts, libraries, and I believe there's a couple of different levies that receive the major part of the taxes, that the county gets very little of that. So like you said, we could lower our portion, but there's still a huge chunk out there.
Yeah, you wouldn't even feel that reduction.
Yes, who do we have to talk to get the tax maybe split? If I remember right, in Kansas, I paid it twice a year and half and half, because hitting me up for a $3,000 bill right after Christmas is a pretty hard load.
Well, we can put that in with our other considerations to ask our state legislatures to allow.
And I can say, I think we do have a program in place, but it's for seniors. It's a quad paid program, which basically, if you're, I believe if you're over 65, you're the registered owner. You can fill out a form, and you're allowed to pay your taxes on a quarterly basis. So we have some form of that, but it doesn't, reach to everybody else.
And you have to have your taxes paid by the end of the year too. You can't wait to pay them after a year.
Yeah.
So 1 year, you're probably gonna have almost what amounts to a double hit. It isn't really, but it seems like it. You pay this year's taxes by December 31st, next year we have the quad program for everything. You got to pay another tax bill at the end of March.
On the lines of that question, you've got a special bill for senior citizens, which is great, and I knew about that, but is there also a program for veterans or active duty military? So if someone was serving overseas, that's really a hard thing to do, is get those taxes paid all at once on time.
Not now, there isn't.
There isn't.
That's another consideration, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that Crystal's son, Legislator Williams wanted to be here, but her son is having oral surgery this morning. She wanted me to mention something else that we are working on is we're working on disadvantaged business, women-owned business, and minority-owned business legislation. Currently, the county doesn't have anything in place, and that's something that we're working on. And then Jaime and I, along with our combat team, the community action. How do you stand for again?
Community backed anti-drug tech.
Anti-drug tech, sorry, that most of you vote for. We are putting on a combat academy. I think I heard that somebody was here from a couple of organizations, and we found that people that are wanting to apply for combat funding often find the logic model challenging. So what we're doing is we're partnering with some people from combat, and we're going to be putting on a workshop for people who have been wanting to know how to get qualified for combat funding. And that will be starting this summer.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the federal representative?
The internet sales tax.
Yeah, it passed it passed the Senate by a pretty large margin, maybe a month or so ago. I think it got 69 or 70 votes. Now it's on to the House, and we're just waiting on action from the House. Don't expect to see anything anytime really soon, but I think with the big Senate vote, we'll see some movement on it eventually.
Is there opposition to it, or is it just?
Yeah,
obviously there's some.
Yeah, there's some, but I think we see it as a way to level the playing field between Main Street and the internet. Your Main Street shops aren't being unfairly taxed versus buying something on the internet where somebody doesn't have to pay those taxes. So,
I think Clark classical years ago was talking about how the zip codes, or by how will they ever know what tax you're supposed to pay, was one of the rubs and all
and
that.
Part of the bill has requirements for software to be created.
Okay.
That's
To identify
the
proper tax.
Make sure that's streamlined in the right way. And the states, this bill also doesn't force any states to do anything. It gives states the ability to collect the sales tax and implement the sales tax should they choose to do so. So it would be up to the states exactly how that works.
Kind of like Medicare and things like that. Okay.
Which is really up to the states right now,
Yeah, I think there had to be a federal bill passed to give them the mechanism to collect it, I believe. It just makes that process a little easier, the way I understand.
And I'm curious on why this would be dragging on. It seems like a no-brainer to me. You got some large, Amazon's for it, actually.
Right, Amazon's for it, right.
These companies are using the infrastructures of the cities and the counties, not paying the taxes to repair roads. I don't understand what the holdup is.
I think some people see it as a new tax, which it really isn't. You're supposed to be paying that tax right now. And
Right, people just aren't claiming.
Right, exactly. Because there's no easy. I think last year in the state of Missouri, 300 or 400 people claimed it, and probably by accident. I mean, there's just no easy way to do that.
Well, that's the only people who bought out of state.
There is, Senator, there's so much stuff going on at the federal level. I mean, every day you hear more stuff come out, and I just wonder, how does Senator Blunt decide which ones of everything that's going on is he really concentrating on? And I also would want to know where he comes down on the NSA.
I think there's so much coming at us right now. You're right. I think he's very concerned. He's very, very concerned about the IRS issue and targeting specific people. That's a major concern. But you're right. There's a lot coming at us to be concerned about.
How does he here's what bothers me about the federal, well, there's a few things. The federal government, you know that there's something wrong, something is wrong, somebody does something wrong, nobody gets punished. Nobody. They get promoted, they get moved to another area, they get put on administrative leave with full pay, which is a lot more than what any of us in this room are making. There has to be something that the senators can do to start keep holding people's feet to the fire. And I mean, this is a bipartisan issue. I mean, It happens on both sides. And I just, we would be fired in our positions and probably never be able to find a job again in public service.
Right. Well, as far as the IRS issue goes, this is something we're going to be continuing to press and continuing to talk about and make sure people are held accountable for this, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
How does he put a light on it?
I'm sorry.
How would the senators put a light on it to make that happen?
I think it's something we just got to keep on pressing, keep on talking about, and keep on trying to hold their feet to the fire.
Yes. Is there any movement to hold the IRS to the way the law was written? Everybody's talking about, they went after conservative 501c4s.
Yeah.
But the law is written exclusively, and the IRS changed the code to primarily both liberal and conservative organizations should not be able to have this status if they engage in politics the way the law was written. And it just seems like they're focusing on the wrong part of the problem by not essentially eliminating all of these organizations' tax exempt status, because that's the way the law was written.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that, but I understand what you're saying.
As a Chamber of Commerce, is there anything that we're missing out on in contacting your office for help for our community and redevelopment and first tier suburbs? Anything that comes to mind is
just please don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's something you think we can assist with. Or I think the Marketplace Fairness Act was a big issue that should help out communities like this.
the which was?
The Marketplace Fairness Act, the internet sales tax.
Are they refunding the NSP, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program?
Right.
Are they refunding that? Because that's been very advantageous to first-tier communities that have got lower income plus property that's very old.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the latest on that.
Okay.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I have a question about Medicare and the changes that are going on with that. I work in a nursing home environment. And we're seeing a lot coming down, and the level of care that is no longer is able to be provided by the hospitals, resulting in sicker people coming to my facilities. And that, which in turn, we take care of, but ultimately, in the hospital environment, because they're not being admitted, they're going home
Right.
and getting hurt, and then going back to the hospital, and then spending a lot of time with me before they have to go back home. With all these changes that are going on, what is the pulse of what Senator Blunt is thinking about all of this? I mean, who's he working with to get the insight from the people who are actually in the field?
I can contact you to our healthcare expert in DC to try to get some more insight on this, because I don't know the exact answer to that, but I can definitely get you in touch with the right person who handles our healthcare policy.
Okay.
Try to figure out. I don't really know the right answer to that.
Yeah, I think, people in the streets are really, people are leaving the hospitals because they're not sure of their jobs.
Oh, yeah, and that's absolutely amazing.
And it's
Well, it's also a
bad.
concern of ours. People aren't entering the medical field anymore because they're concerned with Senator Blunt introduced the bill last week, I believe, with Senator Reed to try to stimulate the university environment and try to get some people more interested in press scholarships, that sort of thing, into the medical field to increase that, because it's a major concern, losing healthcare professionals.
All right, great questions. Before I move on to acknowledge new members to the chamber, I'd like to thank on the behalf of the chamber and everyone here, the legislative sponsors today, AT&T, Kansas City Power and Light, and Missouri Gas Energy. We appreciate the sponsorship. And so at this time, I will offer the podium to the new chamber members, new business owners with us. Would you like to come up, sir?
You looking at me?
I'm looking at you.
I don't need to come all the way up there. I'll just stay here. My name is Scott Barksdale. I'm with a new company here in Raytown called goodbidding.org. I'm the director of outreach. Now, what we are is a 501c3 whose mission is to help other 501c3s raise money. Does that appeal to anybody? The way we do that, we have a store, a thrift store. We also have an online presence. If someone comes into our store and wants to make a donation, we look at our list of designee organizations. If you're on our list, we will give you 60 to 85% of the proceeds of that sale. And we're very computer oriented. Our founder is actually a computer geek. He loves the word, so I use it affectionately. But that's what we do, and we look forward to meeting everybody and seeing if we can help you be successful in your fundraising missions. So thank you very much.
And where are you located?
We're on 61st Street, just immediately south of Raytown High School. We're
On the old dispatch building?
yes, thank you. Anybody, any questions, anybody? But anyway, thank you very much. I'm privileged to be here today.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to give a business update or an industry update? We've got the time. Smells like-
I will tell you about Mid-America Regional Council is having on July 26th from, I'm thinking it's 8:30 to 11, the KC for Communities for All Ages. We've been working on a toolkit which encompasses transportation, housing, first ring suburb development type of things for, again, communities for all ages. There'll be a presentation by a gentleman from Atlanta, and then there'll be a question and answer session on the toolkit, which will be presented to all the first ring suburbs. And then in the afternoon from 1 to 3, there is another meeting more concentrated on urban design, and it's at the Sylvester Powell Community Center in Mission. So if anybody wants any of that kind of information, just let me know, and I have both of those flyers, so I'd be glad to give you. It's going to be a very good toolkit. It's about 50 pages long, and I told him I would be the only one that read it, but I'm sure other people, there will be an executive summary that will be there that will highlight all the different things that you can look at and adapt to your community.
Charlotte, what's the date?
July 26th, Wednesday.
Could you send those flyers to me?
Sure.
Thank you. I may have seen it come through from Mark. I don't remember seeing it, but if you send it to me.
I just want to mention that Legislator Williams and Legislator Garza Ruiz both have newsletters that we send out once a month that detail where your tax dollars are going, what's going on in your county. If maybe you'd like to get on our email list, if you just want to give us your business card or write it down, we'd be happy to put you on it.
I just want to thank you so much for sending that information. I think we should probably maybe get that. We should have all that information. I don't know if Vicki gets it, but just a comment about AT&T. You know, it's the summer months, guys, and our kids are out of school working their summer jobs and running around. AT&T has an It Can Wait campaign. It's been going on for a couple of years. It Can Wait, meaning that text message while driving can't wait. We're kind of lead on that, and we've been trying to get that out across the country for the past 2 years. What I wanted to bring to your attention is next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend, you all know Skills USA will be here in the Kansas City area, and that's when you see Kansas City flooded, right, with young people. And it is really a thing to behold. It is a beautiful thing to be flooded with young people. And at that event, we will have our big simulator that there's a vehicle and a computer attached to it that actually simulates the impacts of texting while driving. So I just wanted to mention that because it's timely, and not just our young people, but also, adults. We text and drive too, so we should try to, consciously try to curtail our behavior. That's all. Great job, Mike.
Merle, would you like to say something from PCNL?
No.
No? No? Okay.
All right, well, if there are no other questions regarding any of the topics today or anything else, is there another question?
They might just have.
What?
A little networking.
Yep, we're here for a while. We can do some networking, socialize, interact together, and trade business cards.
I have two small announcements. Our combat team, they have what's called a Step Up, Speak Up campaign going on right now, and they're actually going to be canvassing in the Raytown area on June 21st, and they're meeting in front of City Hall, and that's from 11 to 1. Step Up, Speak Up campaign is kind of an anti-violence campaign and spread the word about the drug crime hotline. So that's going to be going on the 21st. Also on July 4th, we're going to have our celebration out at Long Beach Lake. So everybody's welcome to come. It's a free event. There's a lot of activities for the kids. That's at Shelter 13. Starts at 6. So there'll be a lot to do, fireworks and all that. So everybody's invited to come in.
Yes?
Hi, I'm from Earthworks in Exchange City, and we are doing summer camps right now, and we're offering a chamber discount. So if anybody has kids that want to go to the coolest camps ever, anywhere, just let me know, and I'll give you a business card, and you can contact me, and I'll arrange a discount for your kids to come. Oh, absolutely, grandkids. And I promise they are the coolest camps your kids will ever go to, aren't they, Renee?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What are the ages, the age ranges?
We have pre-K all the way through probably sophomore and high school, kind of different activities that are throughout the summer that would be available. Yeah.
That's great. I went to Exchange City when I was in
Did you?
5th grade. And I still remember it, and I loved it. It was a really fun time. So.
Read the mirror.
I'm Pat, we deal with printers, copiers, and scanners, and in fact, this is interesting. I can't cite a lot of it because it's a very new thing that's happening. There are what is called patent trolls, whom are calling companies claiming that what you're scanning is violating patents. They then cite some whatever client, and I don't have the information in front of me, in which then they will send a certified letter to you. The problem with this is that there's been no litigation. You're actually forced to fight a patent law, which is interesting because these are by companies who didn't issue the original patent. So what happens is it puts a business in a position that they have to either spend money for litigation or pay their fines. Business and Technology Association, which is located right here in Kansas City, has no advice and are wanting people to contact them when this happens to find out what they're doing, and they're giving no advice to small businesses. And so from a legislative standpoint, this is what's happening at this point in time within my industry.
How prevalent is it?
Pardon?
How prevalent is it?
It's prevalent enough that one of our clients just called yesterday, and this is relatively new. It's just been out, but the BTA has been getting reports on this in the last 90 days. And here again, like I said, they get this accusation, they get thrown this. There are some things you can do. The problem is basically with the acts that they're citing, they have to litigate, and if they litigate, they go, well, here's an attorney at X thousands of dollars, or I just pay this fee. It's almost a blackmail. And it's happening throughout the country at this point in time. I don't know how frequent yet. We just got our call last week, and here again was known about this for about 60 days now.
Do you think it started off as I mean, it sounds like you would think it was a scam call at first. I mean, you know what I mean?
It is by a legal organization that is pressing the lawsuits. They are filing lawsuits.
This has been going on in the copyright industry for years. I mean, so to have it expanded to patents doesn't surprise me.
Correct. There's been other scams that have taken place, but this has specifically to do with patent laws and the scanning of information to the networks and to the network servers and PCs.
But did that understand you to say that lawsuits are being filed by someone that doesn't hold a patent?
Well, they typically buy the rights to enforce these patents or copyrights or whatever, and that's a legal thing to do. I mean, if the owner of a property interest can subdivide that interest and sell the rights of enforcement to somebody else.
Yeah, there's trolling going on YouTube also. I got a notice that there was a copyright violation filed against me because I had Raytown High School graduation ceremony and they played Pomp and Circumstances. Now we're talking about something that is 112 years old, is definitely in the public domain. But if you don't fight them, what that gives the company that files it is the right to monetize your videos and slap ads on them. So, I've had about a half dozen of these out of 400 videos. I've had about a half dozen of them get a copyright violation filed on them. I fought them all because we're talking about most of the things I'm using are ancient, like Pomp and Circumstances, for example. And so they're also trolling for audio out there too.
Good information. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up, and we'll just network and exchange info amongst ourselves personally now.